Well, hello there, and you join us here today to talk about watches that go unloved by many. These are the most underappreciated watches ever in the world, always and forever. If you're looking for a cool watch, underappreciated or otherwise, you'll see a bunch of them below the video. Check those out and more at watchfinder.com. You know me, Tom. I'm a big fan of the underdog, and I believe you are too.
Yeah, I was there supporting Wrexham before they were cool, before Deadpool and McElhenney.
Exactly. And since this is a watch-related show, I thought we would talk about watches that have been very underappreciated for a long period of time that we believe should be given more air, more respect even, than they have currently got. So, Tom, what do you think initially defines an underappreciated watch in your eyes?
When I think of underappreciated brands, it's brands that I don't hear of enough. They should be part of the conversation. People should be talking about them more, and they're not. They're talking about the same old, the usual suspects. Mainly you, I'm talking about, who keeps banging on about the same old stuff. But yeah, there are certain brands that are doing wonderful things, and they're not getting enough kind of lip service. You know what I mean? No one's talking about them. So we've got a podcast. Let's talk about some. Is that the idea?
Yeah, I think also as well, those watches should probably be good. You know, there are many watches that people don't talk about because they are steaming piles of hot flaming garbage. But in this case, we're going to uncover watches that are actually really, really good that people just don't seem to mention or give any recognition. So, Tom, why don't you start with what I imagine is going to be a very well-considered choice?
Yes, as always from me. It's, you know, I don't fumble around minutes before we hit record for something to talk about. But my mind immediately went to Jaeger-LeCoultre. When I hear the words underappreciated, JLC is always springs to mind because I think they're just a phenomenal brand. They have a very strong following. They have a passionate fan base, but I feel like they should be more widely appreciated. They should be ballistic, shouldn't they? They should be like top of the tree. Everything they do is they don't do anything wrong, really, do they? I can't imagine, you know, anyone has anything to complain about. But
what does Jaeger-LeCoultre mean to you?
What literally?
Sure. Like, how does it speak to you in your soul?
Well, Jaeger's hunter, isn't it? And then LeCoultre, that is like sharp edge or something. It's like sharp edge hunter. Axe murderer is what Jaeger-LeCoultre says to me. Maybe that's what's holding them back. I think too many people make that association.
Yeah, subliminal messaging puts people off.
You've put me off. What was I talking about? So a watch that I stumbled upon was the Geophysic True Second, which is it's from a few years ago. It's discontinued now, but the Geophysic it's kind of a reissue of a watch that was launched in the late 50s, 1958. The objective of the Geophysic was to produce a watch able to withstand even the toughest conditions and meet the highest standards, particularly in terms of water resistance and anti-magnetism and precision timing. So, a bit of a toughie was the idea, and this reissue kind of has all those cool things with it. The True Second part of the Geophysic True Second was a deadbeat seconds hand, which was a movement that was originally created in 1675 to regulate clocks in the Greenwich Observatory. So quite a complicated little beast. The complication itself added 60 extra parts to the movement. In addition, there was also a pretty cool balance wheel. The gold beating balance spring wheel looked a bit like a TIE fighter from the front, but it's just the JLC logo, the J and the L, two of those sort of glued together. So yeah, lots of cool fun things going on. The hours were adjustable separately from the minutes and the seconds without stopping the watch to change time zones, so that didn't affect your timekeeping or your precision, kind of like a sort of it's a GMT hand, but it was actually the hours, so that was quite cool. And so they're still knocking around on the pre-owned market, and they've held their value reasonably well. £7,500, which is great value for all that cool kind of functionality. There's some oddities there in the movement, some unique complications, which are quite nice. And again, JLC underappreciated, because they make this kind of stuff and no one really knows about it. So I'm tooting their horn for them there, their Jaeger hunting horn. All right.
You did mention, Tom, if you may cast your mind back a few minutes, that the Geophysic was originally created to withstand even the toughest conditions and meet the highest standards, particularly in terms of water resistance.
Yeah, I did say
would you
that.
mind quoting the water resistance of this particular watch, please?
Hang on a sec. It's... it's an admirable 50 metres, so I don't know what your problem would be there.
Not the highest standard there, but it is a very, very cool watch. And that, as they call it, true second, deadbeat seconds is very cool as well. Specifically, the rhythm of that tick made it a lot easier to set at the observatories to create very precise timekeeping.
Yeah.
And it's unusual to hear of a Geophysic holding its value from new, and this is one of those few watches. So if you do find one, grab one, because they are very, very cool. Tom, I know what you're thinking. I know you think I'm going to say the most underappreciated watch is the Christopher Ward Bell Canto, but I'm not even going to mention it. So, nah. I am going to talk about, perhaps even more controversially, a Rolex being underappreciated. And I know what you're thinking. I wish you were talking about the Christopher Ward Bell Canto because you would look less a fool talking about that than saying Rolex is underappreciated.
This way you get 2 checks, though, don't you?
If I was getting checks from Rolex, Tom, I would be a better dressed than I am right now. I'm talking about the chelini, which is really just like the black sheep of the family. Nobody likes it. Stand in the corner, chelini, face the wall is what all the other Rolexes would say at family gatherings.
Yeah, every time there's trouble, it's you, Milgauss and Air King, and I'm sick of it.
And the Chelini line was actually one of the lines that helped save Rolex from the impending quartz doom, because they pitched the brand, Hans Wilsdorf specifically, the founder, as a watchmaker that made really crappily built tool watches for professional people. They weren't supposed to look nice, they were just supposed to survive and do a job. And the Chelini line pivoted Rolex into something more luxurious, much more of the brand that we see today, where it is about luxury, jewelry, shiny, collectability and wealth. And it was named after an Italian sculptor called Benvenuto Cellini.
Ooh,
That's fine, that pronunciation, Tom. And I won't hear otherwise in the comments, actually.
No, nothing standard.
And this Italian sculptor specifically sculpted in gold, which is why they took the Cellini name for this collection, because it is only in gold. Very luxurious and all of that. Now, the Cellini line has evolved in different ways. There have been all sorts of crazy stuff. It's definitely been the experimental side of Rolex. But for the most recent and now discontinued Cellini line, it was the first one where the design became cohesive with the rest of the collection. If you look at the rest of Rolex, you see all of the typical things. You see the oyster case, you see kind of like the notched bezel, the fluted bezel design quite a lot. You see the crown, the oyster crown as well. You never saw that in the Cellini, but the most recent and now discontinued Cellini had those things. It was a pared back, more dressy version of those, but still carried that. And I think with the Art Deco dial styling as well, it's one of the best looking Rolexes that they made, but nobody liked them. That's why they discontinued it. They've replaced it with the 1908 since.
How's that going?
I think it's very popular. Not sure why that's popular and the Cellini isn't. I think it maybe is a little bit better looking, but it's not so much better looking that you would pay twice the price for it.
Yeah.
So the 1908 costs over £20,000, but you can pick up a solid gold Cellini with the highest level of dial and hand finishing that Rolex does for around, or just under £10,000. It's solid gold, it's got those vintage Art Deco looks in a perfect 39mm case size. It is very Rolex looking, it doesn't look like a different brand like older Cellinis do, it has all of that oyster styling for less than £10,000. Which is crazy. Now we've just seen some of the prices of Submariners, GMTs and stuff going over £10,000 in RRP. And that's why I think, although it's a Rolex, it is still one of the most underappreciated watches because it's kind of hiding in plain sight in the Rolex collection. And if you're looking for a very luxurious Rolex that will carry you through forever, not necessarily an investment, maybe a little bit, maybe not, then I think the Chelini is one to take a look at.
Yeah, a solid gold Rolex for £10,000. That sounds good on paper, doesn't it? And if you were to say that to the uninitiated in the watch world, they would go, oh yeah, that sounds about right. I've heard of Rolex, I've heard of solid gold, £10,000. But little do they know that the Rolex prices are absolutely insane. And actually, that's really good value. Yeah.
And if £10,000 is too much, you can always get a Christopher Ward Bell Canto. So there you go. Those are the watches that we think are the most underappreciated. Let us know in the comments what you think and what watches you think are underappreciated. While you're down there, have a little look at some of those watches for sale. And if you want to see more, there are plenty over at watchfinder.com. Thank you so much, and see you next time.